if you've listened to any of the past podcasts, probably, was in season two, was the host of Women with AI. Good morning, Joanna.
Good morning, David. How are you?
Yeah, I'm really good. It's been, we took what, nearly 5 months off,
Yeah.
I guess, between kind of the last season. That's kind of how I'm thinking about it. Like season one was creatives, and then season two was all the different channels, and season three we kind of
Mhm.
just bringing it back together a little bit because it got a bit excessive there for a while, I
Yeah,
think.
I think you're a bit snowed under. We had a lot going on, a lot of shows. I mean, I loved it. I enjoyed it, and it was easy
Yeah,
for me because I just, as you said at the beginning, you'll just do the talking and ask the questions,
yeah,
which, as we know, isn't always the easy bit. But
yeah.
you were obviously doing all the editing, all the putting it together, all the pushing it out there, all the clipping, and all the rest of it. You should probably get an AI agent to do that,
I,
David.
I should like get a studio or something that could do it
Yeah.
for me. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
that's what you were busy doing. So yeah, congratulations to you
exactly.
as well, because you are doing
Yeah.
phenomenally well now with the studio.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it that was part of it is that I was, desperately trying to get the studio up and running, and to be honest, I just had burnout on talking about AI. I just kind of it just had reached a limit, and it's all I ever seemed to talk about with anybody, and I was just like, I just need to focus on other things. Anyway, we're back now,
Yes.
and it's 5 months later,
Mhm.
and I've had a little time to reflect, and I know you probably have had some time to reflect as well. So, how are you feeling about AI these days?
Oh, I mean, I'm feeling about the same about AI as I was before. I think it's interesting seeing how other people are feeling about it and how other people are kind of accepting it. Because I think as well, there's loads of stats out there, and obviously I'm going to generalize here and I haven't got the stats to hand, but not as many people are using AI as we think they are. It's only
Yeah,
because we're interested in it, we are using it. We've been doing the podcast. I mean, I, for one, I wouldn't have been as interested if you hadn't given me the opportunity to be the host of Women with AI. And I think it's really interesting because obviously I've gone down that route, or I was going down that route, and I do still, I do a lot of my kind of senses are kind of, attuned to what's happening with women. And I think the fact that you have women in business, women in tech, women in STEM, there's a huge chunk of people, or that are kind of, as a society, we really need to be looking at women with AI and how they're portrayed and how AI is talking about them, just like any demographic. But I think I'm still surprised that people think that this magic wand has been invented and now they can just use it and it will do everything they need it to do. I think that isn't what it's here to do. It is like, I think the third person I spoke to ever, Julia, in the Women with AI one, AI is like an intern. I think it's someone that you bounce ideas off. Not saying that you bounce ideas off an intern. You
mm,
normally bounce ideas off your friends, your peers, people that might be more clever than you, or, or kind of are doing the things that you want to do. And I
yeah,
think it's a bit like the advice that I would give anyone, or that I once received, that only take advice from someone that you respect, or that you kind of think, well, actually, especially say you're looking for relationship advice. Do you go and ask someone that's in a terrible relationship and you always think, goodness me, I don't know why they're with that other person, or what they're doing with their life, or why they're being treated like that? Would you
yeah.
take advice from them? Maybe you do, maybe they're your friend and you advise them, they advise you, but you take it with a pinch of salt. And I think it's searching out and finding the advice you want. But I think also AI can sometimes just give you the answers you want. So I think it's quite tricky to sometimes know. And I think that's where anyone that doesn't really understand anything is going to get tripped up and caught by it. But I think it's everyone's got to kind of keep an awareness that AI isn't sentient, it's not a person, it doesn't have the experiences we have. It's only learning from what it's been given, it's only learning from what has been pushed into it. And as much as we think it's now, it is very clever and no one really understands how it works, it will take different viewpoints that different people have fed into it, but it's not necessarily going to give you the answer. I think that answer is still within you, but AI is a tool.
But that's the same as a human, isn't it? We
Well,
take
yeah,
input from all different places, and then we
yeah,
spit out something that we think is whatever, and it
yeah.
could be right or wrong, or you know,
Exactly.
th-
So I'm saying AI isn't the answer. I think
yeah,
it's what are we looking for? What's the question?
yeah. Well, yeah, we're back to Hitchhiker. The
Yeah.
answer is 42. We know that already. We just don't know what the
Excellent.
question is.
Exactly.
Um, but yeah, but yeah, no, and this is what I've been saying all from the very beginning of when I started thinking about this is, AI is just like a human in
Mm,
that respect, right? I mean, that's all we do. We learn from other people, we read from books, we see what we see on TV, We watch idiots on YouTube. We get information from our friends, from our family, from newspapers and everything, and then we munch that in our brain, and then we spit out some kind of thing that we think is, sort of original. It's exactly the same thing that AI does.
Yeah.
And I I'm not it seems just blatantly clear to me that it is exactly the same as a human in that respect. And
Hmm.
people swear up and down that it's not, but it is.
Yeah.
At its most basic, is
Yeah.
we can only make decisions off the information that we have. The thing is AI has a lot more information than we do,
Mm. Yeah.
um, and so it comes to slightly different conclusions than we do. But that's an okay thing.
Mm.
Um, so what I was going to ask is, so going back to when we first started talking a couple of years ago about this, I had two I had two kind of questions about particularly AI's impact with women. One was obviously that a lot of the jobs that were seemingly being taken by AI, or that AI was having a huge impact on, were roles that were traditionally kind of more populated by women than men. So if you think like marketing, PR, a lot of the creative work and stuff like that, particularly writing and those sorts of things, were very heavily female anyway. And that seemed to be the big industries where AI was making massive inroads. So I'd like to get your thoughts on where you think that is and how that's played out over the past couple of years. And then the other one was, really, I was wondering and wanted to explore the idea that women could use AI as a competitive advantage, in business and stuff like that. So it may actually give women more of an advantage, again, maybe in those roles, or if they wanted to be more competitive in the marketplace, maybe against men or other women or whatever. And would that, again, would that be helpful, or could it be used, and could it be helpful for women? And yeah, I'm interested to know what you think about that as well. So, what do you think?
Yeah. Go. I,
I'll turn my
oh,
microphone off for 10 minutes and you can
no,
just
no, no.
rant.
I think I think you've got to use it. So women, you've got to use it. Men, you've got to use it. Men probably are using it more than women. They were the stats, a couple of years ago. Again, I'd need to go back and look at that. And I think it does give you an advantage. And I know in equal parts, men and women that I work with that have both said, no, I don't want to use it. I think it's going to stifle my creativity and I don't want to fall down a rabbit hole of getting lazy or of not learning. But I think that's where, again, it's your choice. You've got to see it as a tool. You're using it. How else do you learn? You do the research. Nowadays you Google it. In the old days you'd get out an encyclopedia, or you trawl through the newspapers. Now you can just ask ChatGPT or AI, whatever your other AI is available, Claude, to go through and kind of give you those stats. But again, you've got to then fact check it, which they're still doing in schools. I think that's still a big part of teaching, younger people, that you don't just believe everything it gives you, just like you don't believe everything that a person would give you.
Exactly.
And I think, yeah, there are a lot of advantages to women, but I think it all comes down from the top on what it's being fed to begin with. So it's that constant battle. And I think if you're coming up against something that is very heavily against you, you might not want to use it. And I'm, thinking back to some of those conversations I had where it was about bias, and it was about, searching for a picture of a professor, it's a man, search for a picture of a cleaner, it's a woman. And and it's not just kind of the gender thing, it's the kind of, the race question as well, and kind of, is it a black person, is it a white person, what ethnicity are they? And again, it's the tool that you have to use. So I think there are a lot of advantages to be had, but you've got to be willing and open to want to use it. And I hope that people are using it. I use it. I use it in my day-to-day life. We're allowed to use it at work. We use Copilot. That's the one that is being kind of signed off and approved. And there are regular weekly kind of sessions on how to use it and what it can do for you. And it's quite interesting because the ones that I've joined, it has been mainly women that are on there, but whether there's just a high percentage of women that are
But
working where I am.
but you work in a comms team, which is
Yeah,
exactly what I was saying, right?
yeah,
Is that those roles traditionally have been highly populated by women.
yeah.
And so, again, do you know what I mean? So, are you seeing any, I mean, I've talked to a few people in PR
Hmm.
that I know who a few years ago were vehemently of the opinion that PR was a personal game, right? It was you needed personal contacts, you needed those sorts of things. It needed somebody to be able to do it, and that the AI wouldn't really affect their business too much. And then I've now come back to them a couple of years later, and they said basically they don't hire interns anymore because they don't need them, and they're actually more trouble than they're. They didn't say that. That's unfair. That was the subtext of what they said. Is that it's it takes more time and effort to work with an intern than
Yeah.
it does for their people to just use AI to do
Yeah.
some of those basic low level tasks that
Well, of
the
course, because the
that the
intern,
interns would do.
yeah, because the intern, think about it,
Yeah.
wants to progress and go, they're going to move on and then you, oh, got to start again. Whereas
Yeah.
with AI,
But
you're just
there's
keeping it.
yeah. So they had essentially I I won't quite well, I'll try and get this person to come back on and talk about it and see if they'll talk about it openly. But um I think it was about 14 interns that they weren't going to do this year that they would have done normally. And they just didn't need to do it because their normal, sort of um, PR agents and whatever could just handle the business, and it was easier for them to do it themselves.
Mhm.
The and this again gets back to okay, well that seems okay, a little bit maybe, but then you just get a constant erosion, right? Because those interns aren't going to get trained up. They're then, how do they progress to then becoming actual employees that are like a full time employee that,
Yeah.
as a PR consultant or whatever. And then the problem is that now you don't have any of those coming through the pipeline. So where do you get the next batch? Well, you don't need them either because 3 or 4 years down the line, AI is going to be so much better that it can actually do the job of a normal PR consultant. And, so this is a long term thing. And this is what I said from the very beginning. This was the canary in the coal mine, is right.
Hmm.
This is, we can see the writing on the wall.
Yeah.
Have you seen this in your, like, has it made a difference in maybe not necessarily in your team, but in even with friends of yours and their networks and the stuff that they're doing? Has anybody commented on it yet? Does it seem to be having an impact?
I think people are, I mean, because I do have a lot of female friends, and the ones I speak to know that I've done the podcast. And so they'll always be sort of telling me if they've seen some news or have I managed to get in touch with Hannah Fry yet. And, so if she's
Right.
listening, we'd love to have you on. Um, but it's that kind of, yeah, it's the young people coming through. What do they want to do? I've got a friend whose daughter at the moment is saying that she wants to join the police force, and I'm like, what? That, I mean, that would never have even
Yeah.
crossed my mind. And I do sort of wonder if people are, younger people are going to start thinking of different roles, because as you say, if we don't take the interns on, and I when I worked in publishing sort of 15, 20 years ago, I had a male intern, and he wanted to get into publishing and kind of, whether that was writing or editing or doing the kind of sales side. And you're right, who's going to train them, what they're going to do? But I think that's
Mm.
a massive question hanging over all of us, and especially since COVID, when young people are working at home and they're not even going into an office, so they're not even getting
Yeah.
that exposure to other humans. So many people now, we have people that are working, for the council, for the comms team, that, unless you're being told that you have to come in to an office every day, which is really rare now,
Mm.
you're basically sitting at home and you're just looking at a computer. You might as well be talking to an AI bot or something. You're not getting that information from other humans. All you're getting it from is AI. So I think
Yeah.
that's kind of one worry. That's kind of off the topic that you asked me, but I don't really know what these younger people are going to do. Or, is it looking for other opportunities? Is it, training up Claude, becoming a coder, and then like building your own company, doing something? But what is it that you're going to do? I think it's,
Mm.
what do people want? How do you tap into that? What are they being taught at school? But yeah, but I still think that AI is affecting all of us. I think, at the beginning it is, are women going to be outsizely impacted? And yes, in certain areas, then definitely 100% that we are. And whether that comes down to just the differences in women not wanting to use it and wanting to prove themselves a bit more, and kind of doing the sort of fact checking and the attention to detail, well, that's not quite right. I do have examples, or I can think of situations where someone's asked AI and they've just, farmed it out and given it to me, and it's like, well, that's not right. That isn't right, is it? But they haven't bothered. They've just thought, oh, AI is correct. It's given me this. I'm just going to use it. But how do you know that? Because that's something that probably people have to teach you.
Well, in this, I saw an article and it was talk. They've been talking about it, and they've been saying that essentially we're losing, we as a society are losing the ability to critically think and
Yeah.
exactly that, and to understand what's right and what's wrong, because everything we get is from the AI. And
Yeah.
so we haven't learned anything from anywhere else. Do you know what I mean? So we just
Yeah.
take it as that's correct.
Yeah,
Um,
but then it's our generation because, as I say, if in schools they're actually saying, right, okay, ask AI this question, but then actually go off and research it yourself. Oh, actually, it's completely wrong. That wasn't right. That isn't how you do it. That isn't how you do it. Whereas we're just
mm,
like, oh my God, we've been given this amazing tool. It's doing this, and then that's
yeah,
the thing that I think you shared an article with me yesterday, and it was, I can't remember which one it was now because yeah, I don't know. I love it when we're sharing what we've seen, and whether it's an email or if it's Instagram. And I just said before we started, I'm trying to find that link, can't find
yeah,
it. But how people are using it and what it's saying, and if it's lying to you, but you don't know it's lying to you,
yeah,
and you're just accepting it. But I was asking ChatGPT the other day. I'm trying to buy some more shares in my house. I've got a shared ownership house. I want to buy some more. It's like, how much will it cost me to buy 15% more, or to buy another sort of 10% to go up to 50 or 70? But it didn't do the maths right. It gave it to me.
yeah,
I was like, well, this sounds amazing. Yes, of course I can afford all this money. And then it was like, well, no, you've only done, this is 10%, this is 10, each. You haven't added it together, but you have to have that knowledge
yeah.
already of a subject or of what you're asking it to go back. So I think it's really, you can't just learn direct from AI.
No, and I think, and you know, the key is in the name. It's a language model, not a
Yeah.
mathematics model.
Yeah.
So, and I
Well,
think a lot of people don't, but we forget that, right? Because we just get used to interacting with it, and we
well,
think
that's the
that
thing.
it's,
People think
but
it's his
it's not
magic.
maths. It's not a
No,
maths engine. It's
no.
a language engine. So it's
And
gonna
it,
give you things that sound, you know, correct, but
but
maybe
everything,
not.
have you seen, there's, I can't, oh gosh, what's her name? I think it's Pharrell Hegarty. I need to check it out. But she, a comedian, and she posts things, and she always does this one about LinkedIn, and it's just everyone going, "Oh, I'm thrilled! I'm thrilled, David! Oh, I'm
Yeah,
thrilled! Oh, I've I just got divorced, and this is what it taught me about project management. All these things, and it's
oh,
just
I
as
hate
soon as you
that.
start looking, and it's, I write a lot of LinkedIn posts, and I
Yeah,
realized the other day actually that my presence on LinkedIn since stopping doing Women with AI was kind of bothering to talk about things. I think to myself, I'm on LinkedIn every day, but I'm doing it for the program that I work for. I'm not actually posting it might be what I think or what I think the program should be saying. So I'm doing that. But whenever I write something and I run it by my team members and say, I'm posting this, it's okay. They're all like, why is everyone always thrilled on LinkedIn? Why is everyone delighted? I'm like, well, okay, you come up with some other words to use. Please, thrilled, delighted. But
I bet I can guess who called you out on that as well, but we won't mention her name.
yeah, we won't mention names.
I know exactly who that is.
Yeah, you do. But I've totally forgotten what the question was now.
That's all right. Yeah. Hello to Gemma. Um, so how do you use AI differently? Because you said you use it every day. So we'll just go into this, and we do have a couple of things to talk. Well,
Yeah.
actually, sorry for anyone listening. This is how our brains work normally, and sometimes we edit this out, but we're live today. The article, yeah, the article that I did send to one was about the bikini picture.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
That there was this battle between two sort of creators on social media, which we'll get to that in a minute. The
Mm-hmm.
other one was about, yeah, it was about AI lying, and starting to, what we're starting to see is that some AI is beginning to go off and do tasks seemingly on its own, and it will it will go, and there are some unintended consequences, like it actively lies, it makes stuff up to seemingly forward its own goal, whatever that is. Or if you ask it to do something, it takes unusual steps that people wouldn't expect. It's deleting people's emails, it's
Mm-hmm.
doing all sorts of stuff behind the scenes. Um, and I think we've seen this from the very beginning. I mean, even when ChatGPT sort of went public in 20, late 22,
Mm-hmm.
there was some articles where, they were just giving it simple games to play, like hide and seek and stuff like that, or one car had to, chase another car kind of around a track, and what it would do is it would like move one of the cones out of the way and then go outside the track and then put the cone back so the other vehicle wouldn't see it
Mhm.
because it was outside of the track. So it did that on its own, and it worked out that that was a the way not to get caught was to actually just go outside of the the playing field. So cheating, basically.
Mhm.
It's always done that. And this gets, I guess, comes back around to how people are starting to use it. And I think as some people are really pushing the boundaries of what, the AI can do and is able to do, we're starting to see unexpected behavior. Because again, we think it's going to act like a human, but it doesn't act
But it
like a
is acting
human,
like a human.
but it kind
That's
of is.
going
Yeah.
back to what you said at the very
Yeah.
beginning. That is exactly it. People lie, people cheat, trust no one. Because that's the thing, if someone can get around something, they'll get around it, and that is what it's
Mm.
probably learning. Because also,
Yeah.
if it's only learning on what people are feeding it, you might say, well, this is my challenge, what's the quick way, what's the easy way, do I have to do it like this? I mean, we all know the law is an ass. All these laws that everyone's abiding by in every single country that have been made up hundreds and hundreds of years ago, and we're still following, going, no, we've got to do this to the letter of the law. Why?
Yeah.
Has anyone actually looked at it and realized, have things
Yeah.
changed? Have things
Yeah.
moved along?
Yeah.
Women are now treated differently. You're treated differently depending on what you believe in. What? Hang on. Why doesn't someone go back to the drawing board and kind of work out if it's actually fair for everyone? Equality, equity, looking at all those kind of things. That's the sort of training you have to do in the workplace now. And I think AI it's learned from humans, so it is acting like a human, and that's the bit that's still, I think, why are we surprised by this? And
Mm.
also when it's trying to, I think, you did that podcast ages ago with one and saying, what if I tried to switch you off? Or when it was, thinking, if it's
Yeah.
going to take over the world, will it switch itself off? No, because we're almost feeding it that information or that kind of subtext that, well, no, why would I turn myself off? Why are they asking me to do that? And it's that kind of, the overthinking, the sort of thinking around the problem, thinking outside the box, but trying to circumvent, a way of doing it or making it easier. Because that's why AI has been invented, isn't it? To make our lives easier. So AI is just trying to do that, to make its own life easier. It can quite happily come back and go, oh yes, David, I did that for you. I've sourced out all that, and I've only deleted the emails that have got spam in it. And then actually, oh
Yeah.
no, I did email, I did delete everything, sorry, or no, I deleted the other emails.
Yeah.
But again, it's acting like a human. It's apologizing because it knows that that's how we'll react. So maybe we should just switch it all off and start again.
Yeah.
Or
Maybe.
use what we've learned so far. I'm not saying burn it to the
Maybe it'll be
ground.
even worse. Um,
Yeah. And
like you
who's in
never
charge?
know.
But that's the thing, again,
Yeah.
and that's why, why women impacted or affected differently. Who's building it, who's training it, who's getting involved, which sort of closed masonic club is like pulling all the strings and not letting the women in. Can the women like form their own? I mean, there's so many spin-off
Yeah.
sidebar topics. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I have huge issues with that whole argument about women aren't building it. No one's building it. Like
No,
the
it's
people
just
building it
going
don't
off and
have
learning it.
any
Yeah.
impact. It doesn't matter whether you're male or female. That's not it's not the way it works.
Hmm.
So just because a guy is building it doesn't mean it's going to give results that are skewed positively towards men and negatively towards women or vice versa. Um, what we're seeing is a reflection of the historical data. That's all we're seeing. So
Yeah.
it again, it only knows stuff if in a sort of rear view mirror kind of way. So we are being confronted with what the data actually shows.
Yeah.
And
But that
so,
data's only as good as what it's been, the data that's been fed into it.
yeah, but that's totally neutral. It goes out and reads all the books. It goes
Yeah,
out
but
and
all of the
reads all
books,
the scientific
but
papers.
if women were never published, and if they could call the women that did the
Yeah,
scientific discoveries that were written out
yeah,
of history, and
yeah,
it's all attributed to the men,
exactly.
but that's not
But you can't
what's
fake it.
is
You
it
can't
it's
make it
not,
up, and you can't
so
just
is it
go.
truth or is it fact?
But you can't make it up. This is my
But it
point.
is being made up, of course it's made up.
You can't give it,
You can give it anything you like.
yeah, but you give it all the stuff that's there. But then what
Yeah.
you can't tell it is you can't then say make up a history that didn't exist.
No, but I'm saying that it's not
That's
given
what
it
that's what
correct history. That if
but
you say that women have been written out, or I'm saying people say women have been written out of history, like who
so
uh
so let's take the
discovered
CEO.
things.
yeah,
Yeah.
let's take the CEO thing for images. So you go,
Okay.
you request us, you say, give me some images of CEOs,
Yeah.
and it gives you 99 men and one woman.
Yeah.
That's historically accurate.
Yeah, that is historically accurate, but I'm
So
talking
so
about
you
things like
can't complain about
scientific
that.
discoveries where women weren't allowed to go to university. Women weren't
Yeah.
allowed to play golf for God's sake. Women weren't allowed to do these things. So it
So
never meant that they couldn't do it. They just didn't have the
yeah.
opportunity to do it. But some of them did do it, but were then ignored. And what they discovered or what they wrote, whether it was art or music or a scientific discovery, was all attributed to a man. So
Yeah.
that where is that a fact? Is that the truth? Because that is what happened, but that doesn't mean that women weren't as actively involved. But that is the history
Yeah.
that I was learning. But that's why there's all these books, and that's why it's being taught in schools now. That some of those facts weren't right and they were fabricated, and then that's where we're sort of back to square one.
But again, I don't think that has anything to do with the engineers that are developing the
No, it
algorithms
doesn't, because they
that
just happen
train the
to be
data.
there because they've had the opportunity or the advantage or the
Yeah.
pushing to get there or the opportunity to get there. So no, I think it's
So
it's
we
a
get in
brave
that
new world.
situation. So we get
Yeah,
in that situation. So now when you search for CEO,
yeah.
what some people are saying is that it should give more women. So it should give a variety of women of different races and men of different
Well,
races and
no, I don't
everything
think
else,
it should.
even though they have traditionally been white men, let's say, in the
Well, no, I
West.
think that
In the
where
West.
that goes, if you just say a CEO, because yeah, there are more CEOs named John than there are female CEOs.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
let's change that. If you're asking for a picture, are you trying to inspire young women? Are you trying to portray a woman
But
who
it's
is a
fake.
CEO? Then you ask for a photo or an image of a
Yeah.
female CEO.
But
So
then you
that's all you have to
specifically
do.
ask for one.
But it depends. What do you want out of it as well? Why are
I
you
want,
searching for this?
but this is what I'm getting at though. So
Yeah.
this is the crux of the issue. If you just search for show me a picture of a CEO,
Yeah.
what it
Well,
should
it's
show you is something based on the data that it has.
yeah.
There
So it's giving
shouldn't
you the
be
top
some
hit,
secret
which is a
rule
man.
behind it that says if they ask for a picture of a CEO, make sure that it's ethnically diverse and gender diverse
Well,
because
exactly. Is it
it's
then
making
have
it
half?
up.
Yeah.
So
I
that's
know, but
now
then
not truth, it's fiction.
yeah,
So
but then you ask it to generate the image that you want. You don't just accept the first. You never accept the first offer.
yeah, but again, but this is getting back to, and this gets back into AI lying to you
Mhm.
because the the thing that came out of it. Do you remember there was a thing where people asked for pictures of the founding fathers in the
Yeah,
U.S. and
yeah.
it like
And
had
it
them
goes
as
the other way.
Indians and
Yeah,
black and all this stuff, and it was like
yeah,
somebody in their infinite wisdom had programmed the AI to give diverse results when it presented images, but then
yeah,
that meant that those images were totally wrong,
yeah. But
and
then
so
also,
it
what
was
are you
making
using that
stuff
image
up.
for? Because I think that's
So,
the thing. We're testing it, so that's how we found all these things out. But but what do we want to do? And if you don't like what you see, then you change it, don't you? If
but
you're not
no,
happy with the way something is, you change it.
yeah, but you need to specify again. You need to specify what you want. But I'm getting to the
Yeah,
core of it.
yeah,
Is what do we want the AI to do? Do we want
yeah,
the AI to present some fictional future that we think is the correct future, or do we
no,
want it to actually give the we want it to represent what has been the fact so far? I think it's more valuable if it presents the data that it has
yeah,
because then that enables us to see what's been happening and then to react to it. Because if it just starts presenting and you just search for give me a picture of a CEO and it shows you all sorts of men and women and
yeah,
different races and everything, then you start to think, oh, there's loads of women CEOs and there's loads of black CEOs and loads of this, when actually there aren't. It's still all
no,
white men named John.
yeah, yeah,
So
no, 100%.
do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's kind of some people like want to have their cake and eat it too. It's like, okay, but you want it to do that, but then you don't want it to tell you and don't want it to lie to you about some
No,
other
but I think
topic.
that's yeah. So
And
what I'm saying is it's been fed all is or AI's got that information. And then what do you do with it? I think again, it's people are so fixated on just saying, well, it's giving me this, it's giving me that. But what have you asked it? But also, why have you asked it? What is your end game? What is our end game? What do we want from it? there was a comment you made last week in the conversation with Lena, and you were saying, are you wasting time not spending a lot of time doing social media? Should you be spending a lot of time using AI to kind of direct what you're doing rather than doing it yourself? But then I thought the answer to that is, but what is the end game? And you're saying,
Mm.
will that other person win if they've done this differently to me? But won what? Because what is it that you want? And that might be different to the guy down the road that's doing something differently. Because what is both of your end game? And I think that AI it's really held up a magnifying glass to what we do believe or what we have been told or what some people think the truth is or what the truth was and how we're finding out that that isn't maybe the truth. But I think you're right. It's got all this information and knowledge, and it's what we do with it now that counts. Because I think that was the kind of the easy game at the beginning. Oh, give me a picture of a cleaner, give me a picture of a professor, give me a picture of a primary school teacher, or you know a chef in a high-end restaurant or a cook in a
Mm.
kitchen, and the difference it was giving you. And I think that's what then has spurred people on to go, well, actually, I don't want to be viewed like that. I don't want to do that. I want to do this. Or this is my chance. There's a niche here. I can make a difference. So I think, again, it's the fact that it is this tool. It's learning from what we do with it, and it's what we do with it that counts. So it's not giving out. It shouldn't be predicting our future or telling us what we want. Yes, it's a language model, a large language model. It's just all it's doing is predicting. So all it's doing is predicting on what it's got. So this is where we need to come in and change the narrative if we want to, and we want to change what it's doing. But I don't think AI in any shape or form should be telling us what our future is or what we're going to achieve or what we're going to do. I think that's still up to us as the humans of this planet to decide.
Yeah,
What do you
which
think?
is, we ask it a question, it shows us an answer. We don't like that answer because that's historically the
Mhm.
way it statistically has been.
Yeah.
Then it's our job as a society to change the data that's coming in
Yes.
so that the data is more correct and will correct itself over time.
Yeah.
Um, but that's unfortunately not what's happening.
Mhm.
In a lot of circumstances, they're just saying, "Oh, you can't say that. Say something different," and they're putting
Yeah.
in all these rules. So they're it's not actually doing what it's
And
supposed to do. And
it's
the thing that
it's
this
a
is
big
where your
yeah.
bit gets correct is then it's who are the people that are putting those rules in, and are they men or are they women? Are
Yeah.
they do they
Are they
have a
sane? Are
political
they
agenda?
insane? Yeah. Are
Do
they
they have
religious? Are they not religious? Yeah. What do they believe in?
exactly? Yeah.
Why do they think that what they believe is what everyone else should believe?
Is any
Because if
better
you
because
yeah, if
everybody
you look
thinks what they believe is the way.
yeah, and yeah, and
So
everybody just sees what it's a bit like
yeah,
the algorithm as well, isn't it?
yeah,
I see a completely different algorithm
yeah.
to the ones that
That I
the
see.
person sitting next to me in the office is going to see, and
Yeah,
whether that's because they're male and I'm female, but we can be looking at the same picture and you see different comments. So again, AI is just it's fanning our ego. It's giving us what, oh yes, I am right, this is what I think, look, all these other
yeah,
people agree with me. It's just not showing you the other hundreds of thousands of people that don't. But oh my god,
yeah.
totally to go off topic, it's like the Manosphere. Have you watched that yet? I decided I didn't want to waste a whole hour and a half of my life in one chunk watching it,
Right.
and I've seen all the clips and I've started it. But
No.
again, it's like that is what those people think, and then we're all reacting to it. And Louis Theroux is phenomenal in what he does and how he speaks to these people, and it's shone a light on something that a lot of people probably weren't aware of, or some people were aware of in the edges. But a lot of it is you're pulling people in because you may be offering something that they're not getting. Maybe all these young kids that aren't being given intern opportunities and actually giving time or opportunities to spend with humans, they're just spending hours and hours scrolling through bots and chatbots and AI and stuff
Mm.
that's made up, and sort of, I don't know, it's also all these young brains. It's the social media rule, the one in Australia where they're banning it for under 16s. Is that the right thing to do? Are you constantly take it away from people? Is it like a smoking thing? Do you do it from like a generational point and then stop it? The brains that are developing, should they be able to use AI? But again, it's something that I think you have to have to be taught about it in schools. You have to learn it. So
Yeah. I
yeah.
personally I haven't seen the Manosphere thing. Um, I am I'm probably an outlier. Louis Theroux does my head in. Um, he absolutely just I can't bear to watch
Oh,
his stuff.
oh no, you've
Just
obviously watched the wrong ones.
because he
I'll
is
find you some good
so
ones.
like wet and just ugh, he just
But
gives me the ick.
he's letting the subject come through. That's the thing. He's not putting his
His whole
take
I don't
on it.
know, just his whole thing every time. I see something of his, I'm just like, it just makes me cringe just
But
watching
that's what
him.
you think. That's not what all
Um,
his followers think.
I know, I know.
But this is
Look,
why we have
I,
this. But this is why
I'm not
we're all
judging
allowed
you
to
for
think
watching him.
differently.
I'm just saying
Yeah, okay.
I
Well, I'm
haven't
saying I
watched the
couldn't watch
Manosphere
it.
thing.
I was so distraught and disgusted and just
Right.
appalled and getting angrier by the second,
Yeah. But I think what
but
I
also
think with the
laughing at him.
Manosphere thing, and again, I
Mm.
haven't seen the specific documentary yet, so I've heard bits and pieces about it from other places. But I think in general about this whole Manosphere thing, and I know it's about some of the big influencers and stuff like that, right? And their effect on boys and that sort of thing. But I think what you're seeing is very similar to what we were seeing with women's rights a while back. And you had these really extreme women that were
What, that
pushing a
wanted to vote or
really
buy a house?
that were pushing a really hardcore agenda, um, and they were outside of what even most women probably considered normal.
But I
Um,
don't know. I don't.
and
I
I
think that's a
think
different
you're
conversation.
getting a similar thing now because the pendulum has swung. And I think there's loads of stories and evidence out about that the pendulum has swung massively towards women. Women are getting better jobs. They're making more than men now. They're getting better
Well,
in
they're making the same
education.
as
There's
men, and
more
they're getting
people
better
in
opportunities.
there. There more women are graduating university. More women are going to university. All these things, right? So the pendulum has swung towards the female side now. So now you're getting a little bit of pushback from the male side. And
But it's
I
the
think,
pushback to dominate women and to push them down. Because really, we all rise by lifting each other.
yeah, yeah, but that was again, but I think historically that was we're just seeing a reflection of what happened in the
Well, no,
women's
you need to watch it because it's
push
not.
as well.
I'll disagree
Yeah.
with you there. We'll agree
I
to disagree.
I
That's a
I,
very interesting take on it, though, David. I like it,
I
and
know
I
what
that you
some of
put
them
that
say.
forward.
Well, we're going to get in really dangerous territory now.
Yeah, let's not talk about this. I want my mum and dad, I mean, my nieces to be able to watch it, and they're very young.
But I also but there is also a certain for me a certain irony to it in that women want to be equal, so they're becoming more equal. Now you're going to have to fight equally with men. So we're not giving you all the advantages. We're not being polite. We're not holding doors. We're not doing all that stuff. We're not protecting you. We're not doing all the stuff that we used to do because you want to be equal. So now you're equal. So
Yeah, but
now
I'm not
it's an
for a
equal
man
fight.
or a woman.
So
And I think,
we're not giving you those protections that women got in the past. And so
well,
that's
great.
a
Well,
little
maybe
bit of it
also
as well.
don't violence against women and girls. Maybe stop doing that as well. Stop using your strength to beat someone up. But again, I would hold a door open for a man or a woman. And I think
Yeah.
it's I found as well, that the man should walk on the outside of the street or by the I think it's the stronger person would do that. I'm now finding with my mum. I want to walk on the outside of her. I want to be the one that's protecting her. And I think that's just, you do it for the person that you love, you do it for the person you care for, you do it. And it's that kind of it's that equality and equity again. It's, what's the right thing to do and how are you helping someone or not helping them? And do we want, everyone gets a good feeling, hopefully, from helping someone. But obviously there are those the bad humans, the bad actors,
Yeah.
the people that get a kick out of not helping someone and not hurting someone instead. So I don't know, we've gone completely. We're just talking about the life
Awesome.
in general now.
Yeah, that's fine.
But yeah, yeah, well,
Whatever.
going back to the what was the other one you wanted to say? It was you'd
Oh,
sent
so right,
the link about the
let's
woman in the bikini. But
bring
again,
it
that
back
could be a
around.
man and could be a man and a pair of budgie smugglers. I think
It,
again, don't
okay, but
focus on
that's
the
not the
gender.
story. It
No,
could
but
be, but
you
that's not the
explain the
story.
story.
The story is that there was a guy who was just on the internet. He was running a campaign or something. He went to Nano Banana and he asked for an image of a woman in a bikini on a beach. And it gave him an image and he put it in his marketing material and off he went. He like didn't even think about it. He didn't ask for anyone specific. He just said, "Give me a woman in a bikini."
Yeah.
It generated this image. Well, it turned out that it was an image of another female content creator, influencer, and so she sent him a nasty note saying, "Hey, you can't use my image." And he goes, "Look, I didn't use your image on purpose. I just asked Google for it." And she's like, "Well, I don't. Google wouldn't come out with my image." Blah blah blah. Um, and then he sent the query. This was all in public as well, I think, on social media. So they were like commenting back and forth. And he said, "Look, here's the exact query that I used. You can test it and see what it gives you." And what they discovered is that that exact query gives a picture of her every single time.
Wow. Are they
It's
all
not
using
like
the
it.
same platform or the
Yeah,
same
Nano Banana,
AI? Oh,
which is
yeah, obviously.
Google. That's
Yeah.
Google's image thing, and image and video. And so that was the really interesting point, is that we also think that AI is random,
Yeah, but
and
it's not. Well,
normally
it's
it
only
is.
learning, and
No, but
it
normally it is, and it
shows
actually
that.
has part of the algorithm is
Mm,
it has a randomness factor, because in natural speech, if randomness was set to zero and you
mm,
asked AI a question, you would always get exactly the same answer with exactly the same words in exactly the same order. But
mm,
that's not how people are. And so what they worked out in the beginning is that it didn't feel very human if it wasn't a little bit random. So they there's a randomness like coefficient that they put in, so that if you ask AI the same question, you'll get a slightly different answer every
yeah,
single. The words will be different, but the
yeah,
theory will be the same, but the words will be different.
yeah,
And so what you would expect is that if you put that same query and said, give me a picture of a woman in a yellow bikini on a beach, you
yeah,
would get a different woman every time. But what's
yeah,
happening is you're getting exactly the same woman every time. And
yeah,
so he was kind of able to prove his point. She's still like, okay, well, what's going on here? So what they
yeah,
were able to discover is that Google has been training its AI, its Nano Banana and Gemini and all the other ones on all of your data from
yeah.
YouTube, and all your emails and all that sort of stuff, which we've kind of known for ages, but it did
Yeah,
kind of
but
come
everyone's
out
just
that
kind of Yeah, it's like
it's
you
in
never
the
read the
terms of
terms and
service.
no, you get your
Yeah,
new iPhone or you scroll to the bottom, click
yeah.
accept. You're never going to read it. We all just accept it.
Did you see the South Park about that?
No.
They
For
basically,
goodness
there's a whole
sake.
South Park where I don't remember who it was. It was like Kyle or something, or maybe it was Cartman, and was sitting there, and basically an ambulance pulls up outside, and they're like, "We're here to take your kidney." And he's like, "What do you mean?" And he goes, "Well, you signed in the Apple terms and conditions. You signed that you were like we could come and take your kidney at like at any time." And he's like, "What? I didn't agree to that." And they're like, "No, you agreed to the terms and conditions." And they're like, "Take him to the hospital and do like a kidney transplant and take his kidney."
It's funny because it's true.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, the whole point of it was nobody reads, what's actually in the terms and conditions,
No.
and anything could be in there. Um, but
But then
yes,
can we change it? Because that's the
it could be a man in budgie smugglers, right? But it
yeah,
wasn't. It was this
yeah,
influencer, and I think the thing is because there were so many images of her,
yeah.
and
Because
so much
someone's
traffic.
decided she's the ultimate
No, the
image of
algorithm
that.
did. The
Yeah.
algorithm did. It's not
And also all the
someone.
people searching for it
It's the
probably haven't
data.
gone
Yeah,
back and gone, oh no, I want her in a bigger bikini, a smaller bikini. I
yeah.
want her to be a different proportion, taller, smaller, whatever. Everyone's just accepted it. So it's gone, oh great, I gave it the right answer. I'll just keep giving this to everybody.
Which is how the algorithm works. So it's
Yeah.
like, is that good or is that bad? And if you give it a thumbs up, it learns from that and goes, yeah, okay, that's cool. So somebody saw that, went, give me a picture of a woman in a, well, I'm saying yellow. I have no idea what color it
Yeah.
was,
I thought it was red,
but
but anyway.
whatever. Um, and they go, yeah, okay, that's good. Or they copy it or they ask to
Yeah.
download it. And then the system
Yeah.
goes, okay, they like that. That's a good response. And then it trained it. But I think again, because there were so many images of her and so many likes and so many reshares and
Yeah.
whatever, that it learned from that.
Yeah.
And so now it's using that single image.
Yeah.
So this
But
is again,
what's the problem? What's the question? And did someone say, did someone check? Because I think that's the other thing when like to get around also, again, as a student or something, to get around plagiarism, you ask ChatGPT to or whatever to write something, but then you're supposed to go in and go, can you check that this isn't plagiarism? Can you check this hasn't been used anywhere else? So did he or they, whoever was asking for this image, but why would they even think that? Because they're
exactly.
thinking, well, I've asked AI for this picture. Did they need to go in and say, is this a picture of a real woman, or can you show me where you got this from? And then go, well, actually, can you make it so it's unidentifiable and it's not a real person? But then that's the same as,
Mm.
you have to get photo permissions when you go to an event. If you're taking pictures at a conference, you ask people, can, if we're taking pictures, do you mind? And I went to one recently and you had to wear a different coloured lanyard if you didn't want your photo on there.
Oh
And again,
wow,
I think it's
that's
just
cool.
coming back to that like common
Okay.
sense, like what are we using it for? Why are we using it? What does it mean?
Yeah.
If you take someone else's piece of art and then you just sort of scribble on top of it or put a blob of different coloured paint, does that become your painting? This is
Yeah.
one for Lena to answer.
Yeah.
Where does ownership stop and begin?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it's
What's the question? The
no, it
answer's
was just we
42.
were just talking about it, and this is what we were here to talk
I
about.
know. Yeah, I love it.
And I think so. Getting back to that, I think taking a lot of this into consideration, this gets back to, and again, I feel like I'm going to talk about this in every single conversation, so I apologize to everybody ahead of time. I'll try and say it in a different way every time, but I'm not sure how well I'll do. But it's
We prefer it when you say it the same.
but it gets back to how we use AI,
Yeah.
right? So I don't use AI anymore to create just a brand new image. I always give it something. So, for example, I have my Life by Misadventure podcast, and what I've decided to do with the YouTube thumbnails is I take a photo of a person that they've given me, which is their profile or whatever picture they want. I take it and then I have it make it into a cartoon style. So I'm not saying create a new image for me. I'm saying here's
I
a
like your
picture,
new
make
profile
this
pic.
look like a cartoon. Hmm?
I like your profile pic, by the way, on this podcast.
Oh yeah,
Oh
thank you.
yeah, go on.
Um, or I'm giving it something and saying do something with this, right? So I'm giving it information and then asking the AI to help me with it. So I'll
Mhm.
write an
Yes.
article and then I'll put it in AI and say, hey, can you help me improve this? Have I forgot
Yes.
something? Or can you make this, you know, how would I improve this? Whatever. So I've stopped asking it for original content, if you want to think about it that way, and I
Mhm.
give it something and say, do something with this.
Yeah.
Um, Now,
100%.
yes,
That goes back to the question you asked me, sorry, in which I completely failed to answer, which was how do I
yeah,
use it?
yeah,
And I use it how you do, like you're saying. And I think that's because well, relatively sensible people. But I will put in what I want to say, and then I might say, how would you polish this? How would you make it sound more professional? I mean, but again, I don't always use
exactly.
I don't always use the answer it gives me back. And sometimes it gives me back four. And I think, well,
Yeah,
I'm choosing and I'm actually amalgamating three of those,
exactly.
but it's still my words,
But that's what you
but it's
want,
just, yeah,
right?
and
So it's
that's
help.
how
It's an
we use
editor
it.
at that point.
Yeah.
It's an
Yeah.
editor, and it's what Lena talked about. I think it was with Tom Morley when she talked to Tom
Mhm.
Morley because
Yeah.
he's an artist and he uses AI quite a lot to generate hundreds of different variations of an idea that he has, and then he curates that list down to the ones that he wants, and then he can go and physically paint those things. But he uses AI for the ideation process, and it becomes curation,
Yeah.
and that's kind of what you're talking about is, and that's what I do. So again, I'm asking it, or if I ask it for something original, I might say I'm trying to plan a social media campaign. I need a list of topics and I want to do X number of posts over X amount of time. So I might say I want 52 posts over a year. So this is a weekly post. I want to generate a list of topics. Here's the subject that I want to generate them on. Here's my top 20 that I know off the top of my head that need to be included in the list. What else can you think of?
Yeah.
Right? And then it will go and it will say, oh, that's a great idea. I love it. It always tells me it's a great idea. And I know it shouldn't do that, but it does. And I love it. Um,
Yeah.
and then it says, oh, that's a great idea. These are some good ones. Here's a nice order with some extra ones that I've
Mm.
done. And then it creates sort of a logical flow to it. It adds some extra stuff into it. And then I look at that list and I go, yeah, I don't like that one. I don't like that one. But that's a good idea. I see where it's going with that. And then but you do have to interact with it and you have to kind of it's there to help you, not to replace
Yes.
you, I think.
Yeah.
And
And
if
that, yeah.
if
No,
we
yeah.
can
Go
remember
on.
that, I think that's where we're at. So it is still very much a tool,
Yeah.
but
And making
like
it mutual. So I go back, I don't know if you do as well, and I might go, this is the final email I decided on, or this is the final post, this is the final wording for this quote,
yeah,
this is the final bit. Because otherwise it's never going to learn
yeah,
what I actually want or what I actually
exactly,
used it for.
yes, exactly. I do that
Yeah.
as well. So I take
Yes.
all of that and then I get to the end and I go, here's what I used.
Yeah.
And then it usually
Yes.
comes back and goes, that's really good if you'd like to tighten it up. And I'm like, fuck off.
I'm like, no.
I'm
That's when I
like,
just ignore it and stop
yeah, I'm
talking.
like, no, I'm keeping it this way.
Say
And then it
something. Yeah,
goes,
I'm in a
okay.
rush here. Come on, stop.
But
But
that's how we train it for our own voice. And
yeah,
So yeah, so I think we agree on that, and I think
Yeah, we do.
that's this, and I'll keep talking about that because I think it's important. Um, right, I'm conscious. I know we had an hour. We started a little bit late, so probably any final thoughts before we go?
I've really enjoyed this. I do. I never know what we're going to talk about. We sometimes have a little disagreement, but we generally
Yeah,
always come back at the
yeah,
end. Well, not a
yeah,
disagreement, it was different viewpoints, but that's what makes it
yeah,
interesting.
yeah,
And that's what you need. That's why the conversation needs to keep happening. And that's why people need to keep listening and need to tell us what they think. And because that's the only way we're only going to learn if we do it collectively. Because you can't have
yeah.
one person, one entity, one anything. It's got to be all the voices feeding
Exactly.
in. Yeah.
I will. I will endeavor to watch the Manosphere thing,
Oh God, that
and
means I'll have to watch the rest of it as well.
suffer through it. Um, and then I know my wife's wanted to watch it, so we'll put it on, and
Well, and your son, get him on it as well. See what he thinks.
we'll watch it together,
Or maybe watch it before. Yeah, I don't know.
and then probably what I'll do is I'll this isn't the right show to talk about that, but I will go on my life by misadventure, which is my other podcast. I'll probably cover it on there,
Cool. I'll
and
be listening.
I will probably for that one I might try. I don't know how I'll approach it, but I might try and find a like a maybe a clinical psychologist or a psychologist or someone to get on actually
Yeah,
to talk about it to have an expert opinion,
yeah,
or I'll just get a couple of my male friends and my son on, and we'll just go on and have a massive rant and just talk
yeah.
about it
Or
from a
find some of
men's
the comedy
perspective.
clips.
So,
So,
um,
Google some of the clips. I'll send you some after this.
well, I have a couple of friends who I think would probably give some thoughtful. We could have a thoughtful discussion about it on one hand, and it would also be funny on the other.
Because
So
it's
I
just,
might aim for that because it could
yeah,
be a really heavy, kind of subject, and so it feels like it needs some inappropriate humor to go with it.
it does. Because part of it is it's really interesting, and it is that whole bonding between father and mother, or mother and son. But I think it goes back as well to what we were talking about earlier. Is the pendulum swinging the other way? There has
Mm,
been a lot of coverage like, boys now, they don't know how to express their feelings, they don't know what to do, they're being made to feel differently, they're being made, they're being pushed out. It's like the whole Barbie thing, Barbie and Ken. Ken's suddenly in a world where he's grown up where Barbie is in charge, and then suddenly he
yeah,
comes into the real world and, oh no, men are in charge, or the patriarchy, or is it just
yeah,
horses? But and it's like, but
yeah,
again, what's fair? No one should have the upper hand. Everyone should be playing to their strengths, their own strengths, and I'm not just talking about physical body strength.
yeah,
You kind of, that go, and then that opens up, the competing. You can, you should science what backs it. You can only compete in sports if you're with people that are physically the same as you. So there's all these other questions and
oh,
things that
that's
it opens
risky.
up. But
That's a
also
risky
it
stance
goes,
to take.
wow.
Men and women
And
are
then we're
equal.
going, then we're going into teenage brains, because
Yeah,
let's talk about that for a minute, because that's why they're looking at social media and AI and the effects
yeah,
that it has on that.
yeah.
Because I've got, friends that are going through that their daughters are early teens. Why are they being so horrible? What is the difference? Why aren't the boys reacting like that? And it's because it all goes back to how we're programmed biologically to cut those apron strings. So teenage girls are going to act completely differently. Teenage boys are full of testosterone and really angry. That's why they're all sent to war and why they're so efficient on the front line. And girls are, being set up to kind of, to start new families and go off and do their own things. So, yeah, get a clinical
Yeah.
psychologist, get any kind of psychologist. Let's get people that know about brains
I think
and
and we'll finish.
society.
Maybe we'll finish on this, because again, we're starting to go down a whole different conversation here right at the end.
Yeah,
Um,
this is the humans bit of
it is the
humans with
humans bit.
AI.
It is humans bit, and we use AI, so we're technically humans with AI.
Yeah.
I think the thing that we've missed, and that
Mhm.
society misses a lot in this sort of last 30, 40 years, is that men and women are different, and that's okay because we're
Yeah.
supposed to be different because we
Yes.
do different things and we bring
Mhm.
different things to the table.
Yeah.
And this isn't going to be a popular opinion either, and I don't care. People can twist. Is that family should be a man and a woman, two parents who raise a kid or kids,
Mhm. Yeah.
because the male figure brings one side of the
Mhm.
personality and the female brings the other side,
Yeah.
and you need both of those to form a well-rounded person. And
Exactly.
anything outside of that There's loads of single dad families now as well as single mom families,
Yeah.
but in those
To have a
circumstances
balanced
you miss,
upbringing.
yeah, you
Yeah.
haven't got the balance right.
Yeah.
And that's what we're seeing in society is we're seeing the side effects of single parent families. And I
Yeah.
think that's a huge contributor to where we are at the minute. And so,
Absolutely.
you know, but no one wants to admit that you need both people because then
No.
that's stigmatizes people who,
Yeah.
parents who are single.
Yeah.
And
But again, that's just their facts. That's the science. So you've got to
but then it's
take out the
implying that
emotion.
maybe someone is better than the other, and it's not. We're just different, and we
Yeah.
bring
Just
different things
genuinely.
to the table. And like this
Yeah.
whole thing of boys can't express their emotions,
Yeah.
no, that's not true. Boys can express their emotions. Boys don't express their emotions like girls. And we're
Yeah.
being told that we don't express our emotions by girls because girls don't understand how we express our emotions.
And in
And
the
we
same
don't
way,
like being
boys, they,
forced to express our emotions like girls.
yeah, but in the same way, boys don't understand the way that girls are expressing their
Exactly.
emotions and why they react. And you're going, well, they're saying, well, that isn't right. But
Yeah,
it's not. It's just not how you.
exactly.
Uh,
Yeah. Anyway.
and I love that. Just to bring it back to AI,
Okay.
that's exactly what Mo Goddard says, and that was how I
Yeah.
read. That was how I originally got into AI. I mean, apart from you, it was Scary
Mm.
Smart, and it's about your masculine brain, your feminine brain, and bringing those together. So,
Yeah. Brilliant.
thank you,
Thanks, Joe.
thank you, David.
Always a
Been a
pleasure.
pleasure.
And let's stop this live broadcast. I have no idea what this is going to do or if anybody even saw it or what's going to happen to any of the files
Okay.
because you would think that running a studio, I would be all on
I
top
know.
of
What
this.
about
But
people asking live comments? Is it not like a Teams chat?
well, there is. And I've had the chat open. Um,
Oh,
I just don't know if anyone's out there actually watching it. So maybe next time
we'll
when
tell
I do
people.
one, I'll get my son to monitor it and kind of see what it looks like
Yeah.
and just put in a comment as a test, or maybe I'll just do a live broadcast at some point. But anyway,
Cool.
have a good
Thank you.
one. I know you need to go and you've got calls to
You
do and
too.
stuff. So have a good day, and I will see you soon.
Thanks. Take care.
Alrighty,
Bye for
bye,
now.
bye, everybody.